I'm drained.
So what was the whole point of this vaccine?
So if you want to reduce your volume, you just reduce it from down here.
Where's
Because I
down
put
here?
it there's a
You put it on the highest.
yeah, I put it on the higher so that we can all have control.
Let's reduce it.
Just reduce it. Because as I was putting it, I was just like, what? I'm getting a headache.
Are we streaming live?
Yeah.
So
No.
Oh, we're streaming live
picture
now?
did you take? Why his picture?
Because he was here first.
Somebody was missing in action.
Okay, so I'm going home.
Actually, where is the mic?
Mic?
Oh, how did that?
Wow. What happened to the stand?
What's going on with the mic? Are we live?
Yeah, we.
Everything is fine.
Are you sure we're live?
Yes, we are.
I can't find it.
Mr. C is checking. Man.
You said?
Yeah.
I
One
can't.
person just joined. I think that's it.
Hi, person who just joined.
No, that's
Wow.
it.
Did I scare you, Andy? Oh, we're in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this.
I feel unprepared somehow, but I'll be fine. I think it's because we're in so early. Studio. All right, well, here we are. It is gone past 7:34 on Monday morning to start your week off the right way on Freshly Pressed. We have got the Monday morning duo joining Kaide Baker and myself, Shopper Martins. Mr. C, Chetawaze, good morning and good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Shopper. Good morning, Kaide. Good morning, Lagos.
Good morning, guys. Good to have you here in the studio. Lagos, don't forget, you can be a part of our conversation as always. Please reach out to us on the various platforms on WhatsApp 0809 and also YouTube. It's youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos. And finally, use the hashtag FreshlyPress981 on Twitter.
Yes. So as we stream live, make sure you leave your comments up on that live stream. And let's get into the first story, which takes us a little bit out of Nigeria, actually, and to our neighbor. So from the Punch newspaper, Nigeria airstrike mistakenly kills 7 children in Niger. Now, this is an airstrike by the Nigerian army targeting bandits has killed 7 children and wounded 5 others by mistake in Niger. This according to Chaibu Abubakar, the governor of the Maradi region, who said, and I quote, "There was a mistake with the Nigerian strikes on the border that resulted in victims on our territory in the village of Nachade on Friday." Now, the article from the Punch doesn't give too much information. We're still waiting for an update, but going away, looking at international news, Al Jazeera gives us a little more detail, such as that whilst no evidence has yet been provided, that we've seen Niger State's television disseminating the news, and we've heard from Nigeria's Director of Defense Information, Major General Jimmy Akpo, who said that an investigation is underway, but that, and I'm quoting now, "As a matter of policy, the Nigerian Air Force does not make any incursions into areas outside of Nigeria's territorial boundaries." But as we kind of wait for more confirmation of what is going on, what would you say if once if that confirmation does go through for Nigeria's part in this? Your thoughts?
Well, first things first, God rest the dead. It's tragic, especially when they are children. Um, it's not the first time that Nigeria's Air Force will be involved in this kind of bad behavior, and we have that history. So I think it's first important to look at this Air Force, so that we can determine where this attack would have come. The Niger Air Force has only 2 combat aircraft, and they are not deployed. They are mainly deployed for guard duty. Like too many African countries, the armed forces exist to protect the elites, not to defend the people. They have two attack helicopters that are on the way. They've not yet arrived. So they just have two combat aircraft and they are in and around Niamey. The people who typically read in and around is the Nigerian Air Force. And given the history of, frankly, lies from the Nigerian military, it's hard to believe the Air Force. So off the top of my head, I will just give 5 examples. In January 2017, our Air Force bombed a refugee camp in Iran, in Borno State, and killed more than 100 people. Some sources say up to 200 people. Some sources say over 100. Everybody agrees that it's more than 100 people that died that day. The most reliable sources say about 115. Remember that the Air Force initially denied it. In December 2017, the same Air Force deployed 2 aircrafts to bomb what it called miscreants in Dong and Laura villages in Adamawa State. And when in the press conference after that, they were asked about Iran and said, why are you still doing this? Are you sure you won't mistakenly bomb villagers? And the Air Force spokesman replied, there are no casualties, it's miscreants that we bombed. No casualties, but we bombed miscreants. I don't understand, but I didn't go to school. In January 2018, at least 35 people were killed in air raids on villages in Zamfara. In July 2019, 13 civilians were killed in an airstrike on Gadigana village in Borno. Again, the Air Force denied that there were any casualties and said, "Oh, we've just neutralized ISWAP camps." Even if it's just ISWAP camps you have neutralized, the ISWAP people that died are casualties. On 16 September last year, the Air Force finally admitted responsibility for bombing a village called Buhari in Yobe State. That bombing had happened on the 5th of September, and the Air Force initially denied. When they eventually accepted, they said only 10 people have been killed. Only 10 people. So this history of
unfortunate wording.
This history of bad it's Nigerian military terminology. Only, as in you for example, I can talk of the Bakolori massacre where the villagers said 383 people were killed, and then the official military statement was that only 25 people. So this history of bad behavior where no one is brought to book, because for the record, even the best air forces in the world, the US Air Force, for example, occasionally has mishaps. It goes with the territory, we accept. But when you have too many of these and nobody is ever punished, is anybody surprised that we're now internationalizing it? And I've not even talked of the using bombs in villages in the southeast, which is very densely populated.
My goodness. Well, I suppose this does now go on to especially with the language that is used, to the question of what is the value of life and how do we calculate the cost of a human life, especially now that it seems to be going out of the country.
Institutionally, the Nigerian state doesn't value human life.
Just to add something to what Cheta said.
Okay, Mr. C.
We're supposed to have a functioning radar system covering the nation. When our airplanes were straying out of Nigeria, how come they were not informed?
All right. Well, your thoughts, people. 0809 440 981. Send your messages on WhatsApp. Send them up on Twitter. Hashtag FreshlyPressed981. And say something up on youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos.
So this one from the Punch newspaper comes to you, Mr. C. It talks about Buhari, that's our president, of course, raising the alarm over ritual killings and deadly attacks on innocents. And like I mentioned, this from the Punch newspaper. So I'm going to put a context to this, or background to this. President Muhammadu Buhari, in a week of special security concern, condemned the rise in ritual killings and deadly attacks on duty policemen and ethnic minorities. Now, we had this conversation last week about, some set of people in, Nollywood calling for a ban on, certain things about ritual killings. But there's a lot of talk about ritual killings in the news. What do you make of this?
Okay, thank you, Kaidi. Now, there's this urban myth that you can get money by ritually killing another human individual. Sincerely, I have my doubts as to whether that's possible. Yes, there is black magic, but whether you can actually get rich through ritual killings is yet to be firmly established. And then beyond all of this, you see the richest men in the world. What is the point supposedly engaging in money ritual if it doesn't in the US? But beyond all of that, there is an underlying reason why there has been an increase in incidents of ritual killings and other attacks.
What would you put that as?
Is this insatiable desire to have money? For very sad reasons, our society worships money, worships perceived success without any established roots or backbones. So we have people who have overnight become very rich, and we're not exactly sure what they do for a living.
So how do you expect, what do you think the government should do to checkmate this? Because, I mean, like I mentioned, filmmakers are calling and saying they should stop showing ritual killings in movies. So, and then the government now is coming out to say, hey, you know what? We need to find a way to put an end to this.
But you see, so here's the thing: film mirrors life. So most of the themes in our films are the themes that already exist in contemporary society. Now, one solid way of getting rid of this problem or reducing it to a bearable minimum is making sure the environment is fit for everyone to maximize their individual potential. Where you have such an environment and everybody has the opportunity, equal opportunity to maximize his or her potential, then there will be less incentive, not no incentive. There will be a reduced incentive to go into things like this. Now, let's remember that there are people who are naturally inclined to a life of crime. And despite your best efforts, because of their natural inclinations, that is what they'll tend to do. Now, I want to address the president raising the alarm. You're not supposed to be raising the alarm. You're the chief security officer of the country. You're supposed to deal with it. Then I read the president urged the agencies to do the needful. Now, urge, I had to look up the meaning of an urge, right? And it's basically you are pleading consistently with someone to do something. The chiefs, the security chiefs work for you. You appointed each and every one of them. If they're not doing the jobs they were appointed to do, replace them.
Okay. All right, Mr. C, thank you so much for that. If you want to add your comments to our conversation this morning, please send your WhatsApp messages to 0809 444 We're also taking comments on Twitter as well. Please use the hashtag FreshlyPressed981.
Now we see your comments coming in. We will take your thoughts after we take this story from the Vanguard newspaper. 51 billion naira UBEC funds pay counterpart funds or face legal action, Sarah tells 36 governors. Now, according to the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, I'm going to quote them. Now, several of the 36 states have reportedly failed to pay the counterpart funds to access over 51 billion naira of matching grants earmarked by the Universal Basic Education Commission for basic education in the country as of July 2019. The group has also urged the 36 state governors to immediately redirect public funds budgeted to pay ex-governors undeserved pensions and other retirement benefits and for security votes, and to use some of those savings to pay the counterpart funds that would allow poor children to enjoy access to quality basic education in their states. Just your thoughts on this?
I feel for Sarah, to be honest. I mean, that's we can in short.
See, Sarah continuously beats the gong.
The fact that these guys have refused to pay the counterpart funding is another story entirely. And in short, it should be the focus of an entire episode of this because 28 states, the last time I checked, have refused to pay. 28 out of 36. And UBEC funding is a state government thing. Basic education, basic health, primary health care, those are state government things. See, I will admit any day, anytime that the federal government of Nigeria, especially under Buhari, but even institutionally, the federal government of Nigeria is terrible. But we are letting the subnational units literally get away with murder. That is the truth. Having said that, let's focus on the story, which is Sarah threatening to sue. For me, the big thing that comes out of this is that they will be ignored because Nigeria does not have the capacity to enforce court judgments, especially when it is a court judgment against the government.
No, you can't actually.
Hmm?
You can.
Okay, you're a lawyer, so you will say that. The Buhari government has, as of September 2019, disobeyed 41 court orders. Disobeyed.
Well, that
Have they
is
been punished for
another
that?
story
Again, that's
entirely.
another story entirely, which is why I said I feel for Sarah. They will get all these judgments. So, for example, their case against the government over the Twitter, they will get the judgments. But as Mr. C will emphasize in one of his coming stories, the government will keep lying to us and will not do anything about it. That's just the thing.
All right. Let's get to our WhatsApp messages 0809444091.
Now we've got this one in from Benito who says Nigeria has a satellite in space managed by NIGCOMSAT that the Air Force can use to synchronize airstrike management from space and give logical information.
Yeah, and he says it's not like a talk. Okay, so that's a message on Gucci.
Okay, this one in from Yinka says, we pray the children rest in peace. Saying, have we considered that these terrorists wanted to escape into Niger Republic and it resulted in a chase? I'm sure you understand the terrain of that area, Cheta, and how the borders are not even clear, and in some cases separated by a gutter. Moreover, the Nigerians also reported it. The Nigerians also reported it as a mistake.
The Nigerians were very clear that it was their people. So let's not even bring that red herring of they chased them across the border. The Nigerians were very clear. Their people attended in, and four people were killed on the spot. 3 died on the way to hospital. A further 5 are injured.
All right, now we're going to take a very quick break. When we get back, more of your comments and more stories right here on Freshly Pressed. Stick with us.
Okay, so you want us to take 6?
No, he wants me to go next. After I go next, then he takes 6.
So you do 4 and 6 together, yes?
Yeah,
I mean, you do
think-
4 and then 6.
Okay, so you
Yeah.
want Mr. C to come next?
Yeah, we'll I've done 2 now, so let him do the next one. Then after that, let's just go straight to 6 because that 6 is.
You haven't done 2 together.
No.
You did 1. Mr. C did
He has
2.
done 1 and 3. I've done 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
So
I'm
he's
saying.
doing 4.
And so I'm doing 4.
Oh, you're
Yeah,
doing
I'm
4.
doing 4, but I'm saying that
So you
we
want us to
should.
talk about Mr.
Oops.
I'm
Oh,
saying that yeah, then after that, go straight to 6.
Okay, so we'll do number 5 now.
Yes.
Yeah, 5 then
Oh,
6.
okay. Oh, God, people. Oops. While we were, what you see happening off air. All right, here we go. Short musical interlude, but we're back, people. Okay, so
That's
remember.
it was a mistake.
Thank you, Cheta. All right, so we've still got your messages coming in up on WhatsApp and up on youtube.com/smooth981fm, where someone says, Mike Corazon says, in Nigeria, no one is made accountable for bad behavior like this in government. They just move on. And who is this?
Kara comes in to say our society condones the act of widow killings. Most people involved in this are youths. The government has left the youths to go that way, and by not engaging them or investing in human development.
All right, so let's go on to our next story, which comes in from This Day newspaper. Oshimbajo canvasses considerable developmental gains for the Niger Delta. Now, the vice president has emphasized that a key objective of the Buhari-led administration is ensuring inclusive prosperity, which is why the federal government is collaborating with state governments and increasing efforts towards ensuring the wholesome development of communities in the Niger Delta region and nationwide. Mr. C, would you like to take us through this story and, just pinpoint what exactly we should be looking at here?
Okay. Thank you, Shopper. So the vice president was in the Niger Delta, I think, on Friday or Saturday. And by the way, he looked very good in that picture.
Okay.
Anyway, so back to the story. He was there to commission for the groundbreaking ceremony of a bridge, which is really shocking that the vice president leaves Abuja for the groundbreaking of a bridge. But
That's another story entirely.
this is Nigeria. Now,
Right.
whilst he was there, he canvassed considerable development gains for the Niger Delta. Now, it's interesting that it takes a non-indigene of the Niger Delta to say all of these things. And he's advocated for an inclusive environment for prosperity. And what that means is, as I alluded to in the previous story, he wants an environment where everyone can reach their full potential, business-wise, creative-wise, and the like. And he said that if when that happens, we can then frontally tackle poverty because the government can do everything. And to a certain extent, I agree with him. For as long as our environment, our economy remains the way it is right now, people will not reach their full potential. That is why you will find more and more Nigerians desperately trying to leave the country because they want a better life for themselves. It's human. Every human being wants a better life. And you have to give your people hope.
Now, Mrs. E, this takes me back to story number two
Okay.
with that of virtual killings. What you said, what you talked about the glorification of money gotten through um, means that we don't know of. Whilst if you look at Nigerians who are leaving our shores, you then see them being celebrated for feats, achievements, educational, a business, and you can sort of start to put two and two together.
Yeah, I agree completely with you, Shopper. And the pay stacks and the like here are the outliers. Our environment here is really frustrating. Now, why is this bridge even being built? And you wonder what is spectacular about the groundbreaking ceremony. Now, for so our listeners, if you've ever been to Bayelsa, it's largely a riverine state. I haven't been in years. I know there are a few roads now, but my understanding was as of 2012, 2013, there was just one major road running through the state. Now, this road is supposed to connect communities and then give the fishermen access to land-based markets. And it is hoped that with this development, the activities of sea pirates will be reduced because the people have an alternative route to get to the market. But beyond all of this, the Niger Delta people have to take a critical look at themselves. From 1999 till date, the amount of money that has been pumped into the Niger Delta economy through the state allocations, through the 13% derivation fund, through the NDDDC, through the Ministry of the Niger Deltas, is more than sufficient to have considerably changed the lives of the people there.
Mm.
And if their lives have still not changed considerably, they need to look at themselves in the mirror and tell themselves the critical truth that their leaders haven't done them any good.
Mm.
All right.
Well, when we talk about infrastructure, this reminds me of the East-West Road project and how even as of December 2021, they're now saying it's going to cost $500 billion to complete. Since what, 2006 was it? It's interesting times that we live in, people. Interesting times.
Let's move on to the story from the Vanguard newspaper. This one's another heartbreaking story, Kowski. It talks about domestic airlines increasing fares by 100%. Now, let's put a background to this. After a meeting in Lagos, domestic airline operators have resolved to increase airfares by 100% with effect from the new week, which is 1st of March. The increment will be across the board. And, okay, you know what? It's your story.
I don't know why you say it's heartbreaking. I mean,
No, because there's a part of the story that says 50,000 to 22,000,
Cheta,
and then it
Cheta.
keeps going further and further and further.
Cheta, it's heartbreaking. You don't do 100% increase. Why do we have an anti-competition commission?
like I said, I don't know why he said it's heartbreaking. So, in as much as, yes, granted, the airlines are behaving like a cartel and fixing prices.
Not behaving like the I cartel.
As I was saying, in as much as the airlines are behaving like a cartel and fixing prices, we have to accommodate something called economic reality.
Okay.
Mhm. So the major expenses that affect airlines globally are as follows in order of costs: labor costs, fuel. Some people say fuel. Airport fees, taxes, travel agent commissions, marketing promotions, and passenger expenses. In Nigeria, labor costs are a problem. So some of our airlines, I think the biggest culprit is Air Peace. You see them having, sorry,
No. I'm actually looking at something
Go on,
else.
please,
You were
go on,
saying.
go on.
you see them having Weibo crew, pilots and air hostesses that we smile. Those air hostesses and pilots are not paid in naira. They are paid in dollars. We know what has been happening to the currency. So that cost has been going up. That's one. Fuel. In other countries, this is a fixed expense because they lock in fuel prices for a period. They have storage facilities that, so essentially they lock in fuel prices for a period, buy fuel down and keep. We are not capable of doing that because as this current fuel crisis we have with contaminated fuel shows, we don't have the storage facilities to store fuel in the country. So essentially, it's pay as you go. So, and we import fuel. So when these prices fluctuate externally, it affects their bottom line. And then airport fees. Do you know that, for example, in West Africa, our airport fees are the highest by far?
Why is this so? Though?
Do I look like NCA? Why are you
I
asking me?
mean, because you mentioned, you said it's.
I've just
Okay,
mentioned the fact. I didn't. There have been since I worked in a newsroom. I remember I started coming to this show when I was working in a newsroom in 2011, and I left. Sorry, in 2010, and I left that newsroom in 2013, 2012, 2013 to go to my current place of work. I have not worked in a newsroom since. Since I was working in the newsroom, that's 11 years now. They have been entreating them. Reduce these taxes. They are too expensive. Airlines don't come here. We are losing out on a lot. They have refused because there's something special in Nigeria that we have. So we have all of these things that add to the cost for the airlines. It's a natural economic decision. Yes, at an emotional level, I don't support the cartel-like behavior. I don't since I got back to the country, I have been to Benin, Asaba, Enugu, Kano. I didn't go by road for any of them. So it will hit me as well.
In one word, real quick,
But
though, are the prices going to go down at any point in time, or is it just going to continue?
Seriously?
How old are you? Since you were born in this country, have you ever
Hold on.
do you know price do you know of prices going down?
Hey,
Hold on,
please.
Cheta. You said that it's a cartel-like behavior, so that means that there's a possibility that there could be a change.
Which
If
is
the
why
federal
I
government-
asked.
If the federal government decides to reduce this labor taxes that you're talking about, then there could be a change in prices.
Yeah, so
right?
Federal government, where they find money like torchlights, they will reduce.
Kadi,
Since you were a
Kadi,
kid, have you known prices to go
Kadi,
down
don't
in
mind
this country?
Cheta.
Let's
In an
move on
ideal
real quick.
situation, you'll be correct. In an ideal situation.
In an ideal
Does anything in
situation.
Nigeria resemble ideal?
Well, that is for you to tell us. 0809 444 981. Now we have some messages that came in earlier that apparently we skipped over. So Damilola from Ikeja says, is the military spokesman saying that they only bomb Nigerian citizens? Questions.
That's a hard question.
Whilst Idowu says, Cheta's analysis on the bombing left a drop dead silence for a minute. It's very obvious the Air Force was capable from the history that was highlighted by him. What a shame, says Idowu. We've got this one in from Bosun, who
Yes,
says,
Boston says the government should also stop screening the music videos and showing things that has to do with drugs, money, and show anything that has to do with rituals, basically.
and more coming in.
Yes, well, there are more messages from Jay Tayo. This one in from Tayo. Tayo says, increase in airfares only to delay flights with no consequences. I hail the... And okay, so
Oh wow. Okay, Yinka, you have no chill. I
You do
think
what you
that's
say.
what the technical term is. All right, so very quickly, let's go on to this article from the Guardian newspaper. Agreements with Twitter, not censorship, says federal government, saying that it's not the agreements it reached are not meant to censor the microblogging sites and other social media platforms in general. Mr. C, I'm going to ask for your take on this.
Okay, very quickly, Shopper. There is no agreement. The federal government does not have any agreement with Twitter. And like I said last week, the reason is simple. Twitter is a publicly quoted company in America. If it enters into any agreement with any sovereign government, it is required by the rules, the listing rules, to disclose details of those agreements. Now, it's interesting that SERP has sued the federal government on this very issue. And since the federal government continues to maintain this line that there are indeed agreements, we look forward to them. Because if our listeners take their minds back, we were told that Twitter would establish a country office within the first quarter of 2022. Ladies and gentlemen,
First quarter almost there.
first quarter ends next month, 31st of March. We were told within a month that Twitter would appoint a country representative. I checked this morning before coming on air. No such thing. No such joy. And
2 months later.
How are you so sure it's not Nigerian timing?
Shopper,
Just asking.
They
see
forget.
Shopper, the sad thing is they can't conjure a document.
Hmm.
Because left to them, they would be possibly try to get some, but they simply cannot produce a document. So I don't know why a government will persistently and deliberately mislead and lie to its citizens over such a trivial matter. There's no agreement.
Well. We end the show this on this particular note. Thank you very much, Mr. C and Cheta, for your analysis of the stories for the day. You can find them on social media on Twitter. You can find them at the Mr. C with 2 E's and a D, and at Chickster also. That's an X instead of an E. And you can find us at Smooth981 FM. Make sure you tag us in all your conversations so that we can keep that conversation going. Coming up 8:10, Lagos, you will be talking.
Okay.